नमस्कार, सत श्री अकाल, आदाब और खमा गणी दोस्तों। सुनाओ अपनी कहानी, बनाओ अपनी पहचान की इस खास मुहिम में आप सभी का तहे दिल से स्वागत है। दोस्तों, किसी ने क्या खूब कहा है कि मुश्किल राहों को आसान बनाने का हुनर यदि आपके पास है तो आप जिंदगी में बहुत दूर तक जा सकते हैं और कामयाबी का एक ऊंचा मुकाम पा सकते हैं। आज हमारे साथ एक ऐसी ही शख्सियत है जिनका नाम है प्रतिमा मनोहर। दोस्तों, इन्होंने भी अपनी मुश्किल राहों को आसान बनाया, जिंदगी में आगे बढ़ी और आज कामयाबी का एक ऐसा मुकाम पाया जिससे पाने की ख्वाहिश हम सभी रखते हैं। लेकिन वो कहते हैं ना कि सफलता यूं ही मुफ्त में नहीं मिला करती, इसके पीछे कड़ी मेहनत और संघर्ष छुपा होता है। तो दोस्तों, आज हम जानेंगे प्रतिमा मनोहर की सफलता के पीछे छुपे उस संघर्ष के बारे में, इनकी जिंदगी से जुड़े तमाम अनुभवों के बारे में। आपको बता दें, ये एक सोशल एंटरप्रेन्योर एंड द अर्बन विजन की फाउंडर है। एक सामाजिक उद्यमी के रूप में अपने काम के अलावा ये एक आर्किटेक्ट, क्रिटिक, राइटर एंड टीवी जर्नलिस्ट हैं। इन्होंने टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया के लिए बतौर स्तंभकार काम किया। ये अर्बन एक्सपर्ट भी हैं दोस्तों, एंड एज एन अर्बनिस्ट शी हैज़ वर्कड ऑन पायलट प्रोजेक्ट्स एंड researched on issues such as affordable housing, participatory planning and green cities। दोस्तों, ये भारत के प्रमुख वास्तुकारों में से एक हफीज कॉन्ट्रैक्टर के कार्यों पर एक मोनोग्राफ की लेखिका है। इन्होंने इंटरनेशनल हेरोल्ड ट्रिब्यून, वॉल स्ट्रीट जर्नल के राय पृष्ठों के लिए लिखा है और आर्किटेक्चर रिकॉर्ड के लिए समीक्षा भी की है। प्रतिमा मनोहर को इनके द्वारा किए गए बेहतरीन कार्यों के लिए कई बार सम्मानित किया जा चुका है। दोस्तों, इनकी ये कहानी आज देश की कई महिलाओं को प्रेरित करने वाली है। तो अब वक्त हो चला है इनसे सीधी सीधी मुलाकात करने का। तो आइए दोस्तों, मिलते हैं प्रतिमा मनोहर से और जानते हैं इनकी जिंदगी के इस खूबसूरत सफर के बारे में।
I'm Prathima Manohar. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm the founder of the Think Do Tank, the Urban Vision. I also have businesses in ecotourism, and I've just set up a community-based tourism incubator and a digital marketplace for community-based tourism micro-entrepreneurs. I grew up in a family where entrepreneurship was, part of our daily life. My dad was an entrepreneur, and I've seen him build multiple businesses. I studied architecture, which was an amazing, thing to study. There are legendary stories of workaholism in architecture and putting in all-nighters, but I loved studying architecture. I think it was such a generalist field. You studied about everything from economics to structural engineering to design and materials and social and economic policy. So I loved it. It allowed me to really kind of become a jack of many things and master of some. And during architecture school, I started writing for the Times of India as a journalist on urban affairs, which really was, another education for me because, I got to meet some amazing people and I learned so much on the way. Then in the architectural profession, I focused a lot on urban planning and urban policy. And I continue to do work as a broadcast journalist as well as a print, columnist on these issues. And it was almost like research and learning more for me. And almost 15 years ago, I started my first venture, which was the Urban Vision. And it's had multiple kind of iterations over the last 15 years, but it was essentially a think do tank. We wanted to showcase ideas to build better cities. And we also worked on, micro projects to showcase what livable and inclusive development looks like. My family has businesses in hospitality. Over the last 3 or 4 years, I've been very involved in that as well and kind of retrofitting it towards more sustainable and inclusive a business. I did work with Daddy in the past on development and design, but in the last 3 years, I've been very interested in how do you make tourism more inclusive. So a couple of years ago, I started ideating on, how do you engage with the local communities where these big, multi-million dollar, billion-dollar tourism investments happen. So we set up a community-based tourism lab to essentially support, mentor, and give market access to locals who have such amazing skills, whether as cooks or craftsmen or cultural performers. And in India, every 50 kilometers, we have such amazing diversity of culture and arts and food. And with Place Explore, which is an incubator and a digital marketplace, we are highlighting some of those amazing vernacular traditions we've had and connecting it to the tourism economy. And in a way, it makes the place more richer. Going on a holiday should not be just about going to the to a resort and going to the beach. It should be about experiencing local places and meeting local people, and in that way it also improves the economy of the place, and you really see improvements in the livelihoods of the local people. So I've been very passionate, and this is the new kind of muse that I've had in the last couple of years during the pandemic, which has been very tough for all of us, even though it doesn't look like that, because I've been told that the markets have done exceedingly well in the last 3 years or so. Billionaire wealth has tripled in the last 3 years. It almost took 3 decades for that to happen in the past. But if you go on the ground, you see a lot of people have lost their jobs, and I think we need to start rethinking economic models. So as a social entrepreneur, I've been very keen on looking at models, whether it's in urban development or in tourism and economy. How do we kind of ensure there's a more inclusive and integrated economic development? And these have been my experiments on how to do that as an entrepreneur. I think life is full of ups and downs, and if it was flat, you would not be exciting. I think you value the successes so much more because of the challenges or the failures that you have gone through. And as an entrepreneur, and I've been an entrepreneur now for almost 14-15 years, you are constantly dealing with failures, and you're constantly pivoting your product. And people don't realize that it's not all glamour. It's not all about the keynote speeches and going to fancy places and getting awards. There is a lot of hard work. There's a lot of things not working out. But I'd say that like my go-to place at any given time, and I'm very resilient that way, is to go back to being positive and happy. Whatever happens, through the career, through the ups and downs of life, whether it is career or, your personal life. And I think, philosophers often say that don't celebrate too much when you win and don't feel too sad when you lose. And, I think I follow that in a way. And I think, when you're working on an entrepreneurial project or a startup, you really have to be driven by the purpose and the passion for your idea and your vision. And you have to be at it. It's not going to come to you easily, and there's going to be back and forth. I think things that have really helped me is people. I've been so fortunate to always have great mentors and friends who've been there to advise me on how to tackle a challenge. I've had very supportive people around me always, and whatever happens, at the end of the day, it all works out. And I think in hindsight, some of those challenges. I think I've learned so much more from my failures and challenges than I've learned from my successes. So I really, really value them. I don't know if I have a success mantra, but I really do think that if you're building a business and your finest kind of function as a leader is to create institutions and create leaders who can take over your vision. And I think I think kind of creating structures to kind of scale up your business, even if you are not there, is something that I have always focused on. I founded the Urban Vision almost a decade ago, and we do lots of work around building livable cities. For example, we have a program called Placemaking, where we build better public spaces in public-private partnerships. So I mean, like we build parks and streets and urban places, and it's all small-scale micro interventions. We work with private sector and with government to deliver this, and this is something that I started. But now I have a team that works on it on a regular basis. The amount of time I give to it is almost strategic and at the vision level. And everything that I do, I would like to design it that way, so it becomes an institution that continues even if I am not there to execute on a daily basis. And I think that's my success mantra for the business. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I have multiple businesses at this point in time. At the Urban Vision, we are a think, do, tank. So we do a lot of action research on inclusive and livable cities. We have an urban design and placemaking practice where we work with governments and private sector developers to deliver better quality urban spaces. At the Place Explore lab, which is a community-based tourism incubator and a digital marketplace for experiential travel and community-based tourism micro entrepreneurs. We help destinations become more special by kind of focusing on what makes a place special, right? Like the local culture, local food, local performing arts and crafts. And we train local micro entrepreneurs to make these skills that they have to become more experiential, and we train them in hospitality skills so they can have access to livelihood options, the gig economy as part of tourism in those destinations. And we have a digital marketplace which connects them to tourists and the tourism economy as well. So, and this has just started. It's literally been a year that I founded this, and the first cohort of entrepreneurs just graduated last month in Udupi. We are still kind of operating in a stealth model, and I hope to take this platform to other places in India in the coming year. And I think I'm going to spend a lot of time on this in the next few years or so. The one thing that I love about my job, I think I really only can do things that I connect with or that I'm passionate about. And everything that I've done up till now or continue to do, I've really been passionate about that idea, and it's not often easy to do some of these things. And like Steve Jobs would talk about the reality distortion field. Some of these agendas that I have embraced is tough. I mean, imagine thinking about things like building more livable cities, or rethinking the model of economics, especially in tourism, for it to be more inclusive. So locals are a big part of that economy, and they have become kind of stewards environmentally as well of those places. I think these are in some ways big social problems, and I think I enjoy as a social entrepreneur trying to kind of tweak things, so so we can deliver some of these agendas. I have a background in public policy, and so I'm really excited by the idea of public problem solving in a way, and I don't think that only governments and politicians are the ones who should think about some of these social and environmental agendas. So I'm kind of a geek about it, and that's why I really kind of, those are the things that I enjoy about my job, that I create in a way, because I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know if I'm a born leader. I mean, as a child, I was extremely shy. And I was very introverted. I lived in my own little bubble. I think, of course, like, I mean, my dad he was a pioneer, he was a leader, and in some ways, I'm sure there were, genetic factors for me to be so, to be the way I am. But yeah, I did. I mean, I think it's personality as well, but I did actually take a lot of leadership classes, and I've had leadership coaches, and that's really helped me become a better leader, and kind of think about what leadership means, and what my role is, what my charter and moral duty is as a leader. So yeah, I think it's a mix of both. It's the it's genes. Some people are more entrepreneurial, risk taking, and have leadership qualities, and also I've had such amazing opportunities throughout my life. The schools that I have been at, I've met the professors that I had. All of them have contributed to what I am today, and I think it's a mix of both. Oh, role model. I get inspired very, very easily, and I have multiple role models. Everybody around me will know that my dad was a big influence on me. A lot of the reason for who I am is because of Daddy, and I think I lived in a bubble of almost like a reality distortion field around him, because he was a very kind of focused, passionate entrepreneur, and I kind of imbibed that from him. He loved what he did. He followed his heart and built things, and I didn't think about him as a role model when I was growing up, but yeah, I think he's been a big part of inspiration for me. My mom is, she's so fair and nice and right all the time as a personality. She gives everybody chances. She'll not say one bad thing about anybody else. So she's an amazing role model as well. I have been very inspired by politicians, because they have the ability to transform the fates of large communities and societies. So I've followed multiple politicians, and they're not they're not just good or bad. I mean, there are shades of gray to them, and when you work in such complex environments, it's never going to be black and white. But I've always been very inspired by politicians who think about building better social capital for the communities, creating harmony within the communities, ensuring that everybody progresses. I remember almost a decade ago attending a speech that the former president of Uruguay gave in UN. I think Jose Mujica is his name, and he's a very humble politician, and he was really trying to rework models of capitalism. So it delivered for everybody, and focused a lot on delivering healthier and inclusive communities. So I was obviously everybody was is inspired by Mahatma Gandhi here. And I don't have to say much about it. I think he almost feels like a fairy tale figure in the current set of politics, because I can't imagine someone using means of non-violence to essentially fight a war and an ideological battle at a time when all of the war, we are going through a war at this point in time. So Mahatma Gandhi is an inspiration always, but he seems far away. I remember one of the quotes that Barack Obama wrote in his book, where he said, focusing your life solely on making a buck shows a kind of poverty of ambition. He said it asks too little of yourself, because he said you should hitch your wagon to something larger than yourself to realize your true potential. So, and I think that kind of encapsulated for me what leadership and great politicians can achieve for you and your community. So I've been inspired by multiple politicians. Some of the South American mayors who really transformed their really poor cities into great places are an inspiration. I think, I don't want to say names, but mayors of Bogota, Medellin, Curitiba, who invested in infrastructure for all of the city to thrive, invested in the poorest districts in their cities. Those are really inspiring people. I've been, even though right now doesn't seem like a good time to say this, but some of the innovators and entrepreneurs from Silicon Valley are very, very inspiring, because they've completely disrupted industries and the way we live and economies. And I may not agree with some of their personal philosophies or even their personalities and way of life, but I'm inspired by, their vision and ability to literally change how all of us are kind of living today and how we are connecting with each other. So yeah, I think I'm kind of inspired by politicians, old and new, as well as innovators who are disrupting our kind of economies at scale. I think education and experience is very important. I have the great fortune of really relishing my education. I mean, it was so much fun to go to architecture school. Like I'd mentioned earlier, it really added so much to me as a person. I loved architecture school and all the various things that we could do in it. I had the great opportunity to be a fellow at Harvard Kennedy School and at Stanford University, and I was so lucky to kind of engage with the professors who were there. I mean, I still continue to attend some of their lectures and engage with them, and I'm very, very curious intellectually, and I think I'll be a lifelong learner, and I think education is very important. But as an entrepreneur, I'm constantly applying the things that I'm reading or studying, whatever I studied in school in real life. Experience is great too. But I think, I enjoy not knowing things as well. You can become cynical if you've spent too much time in one industry, because it's really, really hard to make change happen. And you do need sometimes not to know, how things can't happen or how tough it is to make things happen. You need to start kind of poking at it and making disruptions happen. So I think experience is good as long as it doesn't make you cynical. Experience is good in designing systems that work. I think there's a lot to learn, in hindsight of how you could have done things to, scale up better or negotiate better or do things better. But I think it's a mix. It's a, it's a mix of education and experience, which makes you, a better professional. I mean, I feel like I have so much more to do. But I mean, I'm proud of the little things. I'm proud to have built a street which is more livable in Bombay. It's a small little place, and we've done many of it. We've built multiple public spaces. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the affordable housing experiments that I did almost a decade ago, where we tried to deliver market-driven housing. It was a little tiny experiment with a small developer, but it was really, really fulfilling. I was so proud last week to graduate the first cohort of community-based tourism entrepreneurs here in Udupi, where the first lab took place because I think the potential of that, almost 35 women who are in that cohort, could potentially have a livelihood opportunity because of this platform. And I'm very, I'm actually, I think I'm very, I believe a lot in entrepreneurship and micro entrepreneurship, especially if they have a social mindset and want to think about social impact. And for me, the CVT entrepreneurs were part of that cohort, and we helped them, with mentorship and training. And I was very proud of that. And I really would like to see, hundreds and thousands of people, graduate out of that program and make a difference in the communities that they work in. I would advise, people who want to be an entrepreneur or want to start their own business to just do it, follow your heart and follow your passion, because passion is what makes you an excellent kind of professional in whatever you do. So if you, whatever business you want to start, you really need to be into it in a way. And even if it's, if you want to be a barber or like a hairstylist, if you are passionate about it, you will be the number one in that field. So my advice is, do things with intent and passion, and you will figure things out. And surround yourself with people who think you can do it. Surround yourself with constructive mentors who will tell you when you are doing something wrong, but will guide you and give you courage to kind of go through some of the tough days of being an entrepreneur. But yeah, follow your heart, and your work should not be like work. It should be it should be fun. So it's not like you're upset when it's the Monday morning. You're excited, and so I say follow your heart and passion. I remember every summer holiday driving up to the coast and hanging out at the beach and eating all the yummy things that our grandmother made. And both my grandparents, from my mom's side and dad's side, were voracious readers. So they'd always have these kind of like bookshelves with like lots of books in them. And I remember reading tons of books then. And that was very, very memorable. I was, sitting by myself and scanning through these old books and reading them. And I think I used to read so much more then, and I should go back to doing, more of that. And yeah, I have really fond memories of beach, which is close to both my beaches, and rivers, which is very close to my grandmother's houses. I'm a millennial, and I grew up in the 90s, and life was so much more simpler then. And I think we didn't have our digital, we didn't have our mobile phones or Netflix or Amazon Prime, but we had so much of fun. So sometimes I go into those modes and switch off switch off my, not be very, do digital detox. So you're more in the present. And I have great memories of childhood without all these digital paraphernalia that we seem to have nowadays, and about reading and hanging out on the beach and gardening with my grandparents. Yeah, those are some really fond memories. Thank you for reminding me of that. Um, I I enjoy my work, so I don't think of it as work. But I do spend, like I'd mentioned, my family has hospitality businesses, which I also am running nowadays. So I'm really, really lucky to be constantly, being able to go kayaking or walking on the beach. And I've had such a great March. Like all of last month, I was on a road trip on the coast between Maharashtra to Goa. And, I love those road trips. I love to travel, and I love to experience local culture. And sometimes even try things like, fishing in the midnight, or go kayaking in the mangrove forests. Yeah. And I'm so blessed and grateful that I can do that in the work that I do as well. If I would like to go on a time machine and change things, I don't think I would like to change any of the events, and I think everything that has happened for a reason. And even though it may have been very, I may have had really heartbreaking times, or I may have been upset, but it has made me who I am, and I really, love all the lows as much as the highs. I think the wisdom that I would have now is that, don't be so stressed or upset about some of those things, right? If things didn't happen if things happen as per your wishes, great. If it did not, even better. And I know that's like a Hindi, like a poet's quote. And I think in hindsight, I think a lot of us stress so much about things that didn't go according to plan, or didn't happen as per your wishes. But I think that's great too, maybe better. So don't stress too much about or be upset about those things. That's what I would say in hindsight. And enjoy and appreciate and be grateful for everything that we have. I think that's my message if I went back to the time machine and spoke to my younger self. I think the pandemic, for anybody who worked in public policy or on social issues, has been very revealing, in that we can really see what how fractured some of our social structures and systems are, and there's so much of work to do. And I think the pandemic has kind of given a resurgence to think about some of these issues, and I think that's a great positive. And people are kind of reimagining how we should be doing things so we can deliver a more healthier, happier communities. And I think that's a great positive, because these conversations are happening everywhere, from the UN to the World Economic Forum, to the central bankers of the world. So I think it's the time for new ideas which are more about equity and environment, and thinking about everyone in the society. Even though when you see the news, it doesn't feel like that, but I think there's a lot of work being done in the background with policymakers to push for a kind of reset, to reimagine our world. And I think that's a great positive. I think personally, we are, so many of us are so lucky to have kind of got out of this pandemic, with not much damage. And I mean, I mean, I've seen so many. Of course, there's been so much tragedy. So many people have lost their loved ones, and you know, I think though that's really sad and tragic, and it's especially during the second wave in India. I've known you know, immediate friends who've lost their loved ones, and we've been our family, you know, we've been really lucky to kind of go through this with not big tragedies, but I think for me the big learning is the slow life. I think before the pandemic, you know, my schedules were constantly scrammed, and you know, I'd be traveling 15 days a month, and I don't think you know, in the kind of fastness and the pace of our life, we've kind of, you know, enjoyed the moment. So I think the pandemic has also done a great reset on all of us. So like I said, this March was amazing. I you know, hung out with some of my friends. I met people from school and went on a retreat, and then went on a road trip, and you know, I was so happy. And I think this whole, you know, the pandemic has pushed us to be grateful about the small things in life, and enjoy the slow life, and you know, do things with meaning and intent. And I hope I'll carry this forward for the next 2 decades. I think sometimes great tragedies push all of us to rethink what our priorities are, and you know, remove all the bad things out of your life, the toxicity, and just focus on constructive, happy things, and do the little that you can do to make the world a better place. Enjoy your work, savor, you know, all the great things in your life, and the great people in your life. And yeah, I think the pandemic has been a kind of great teacher for many of us. Okay, so favorite song, and Rajan has put me on a spot and he's asked me to sing it too. I mean, that's tough because I feel, I mean, I'm so shy about these things, but okay. I have many favorite songs, but I want to dedicate a song that was one of my daddy's favorite. And I lost my dad just before the pandemic. And, you know, the last couple of years, you know, it almost feels like I have connected so much more with him after he passed away. And he used to always hum this song, or he'd kind of like to hear this a lot. So it's a really old song. It must be Kishore Kumar or Mohammed Rafi. So I'm going to play it and maybe try to sing it as well. मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया, हर फिक्र को तुम्हें मैं उड़ाता चला गया, हर फिक्र को तुम्हें मैं उड़ाता. So for everybody who doesn't understand Hindi, it means I just, you know, continue to kind of live my life, and, you know, every worry and challenge that I had come my way, I, you know, just kind of blew it away in the wind. And I think it's such a nice song with such a great message, and I'd like to dedicate it to all my loved ones, my family and friends, the amazing team at Work Mob as well. Thank you so much for you know, watching my story. And if you liked any of what I said, please share it, like it, and forward it with your friends. And I again want to thank the Work Mob team for this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed sharing snippets of my life with you. Thank you, and lots of love and hugs to all of you.
दोस्तों, आप सुन रहे थे एक सीरियल एंटरप्रेन्योर प्रतिमा मनोहर की कहानी, इनकी अपनी जुबानी। ऐसी ही प्रेरक कहानियाँ रोजाना सुनने के लिए हमारा चैनल सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल आइकन जरूर दबाएं। और अगर आज की ये कहानी आपको पसंद आई है तो इसे लाइक, कमेंट और शेयर करना ना भूलें। अब आप भी बन जाइए भारत की प्रोफेशनल कम्युनिटी की आवाज़, और सुनाओ अपनी कहानी, बनाओ अपनी पहचान की इस मुहिम से जुड़कर अपने जीवन के अनुभवों, कार्यक्षेत्रों, अपने उत्पादों एवं सेवाओं के पीछे की वास्तविकता से देशवासियों को प्रेरित करें, और अपने जीवन के अनुभवों से अपनी एक नई पहचान बनाएं। टेल योर स्टोरी, इंस्पायर एंड बिल्ड योर ब्रांड विद द पावर ऑफ वीडियो। जय हिंद, जय भारत।